in conjunction with the Forest Service and the state, has come up with a stewardship plan and stewardship plan template that is not a CAP 106. It's not something that we pay for. It has to be done by, it could be done by a WDNR forester, it could be done by a TSP, it could be done by a consulting forester. The fact of the matter is that it has to follow and meet all the stewardship criteria, which I believe is in our EFOTG website under plan templates. And I'm working on one with that Missouri is using and kind of seeing how theirs works versus ours. Now MFL is basically the state program for managed forest law, and that is under the guise of they are getting paid money from the Forest Service under stewardship. So MFL, in fact, is considered a stewardship type plan. And then we have, and these are all these plans basically, boy, that's kind of a bad picture, but all these plans basically allow you to be eligible for EQIP. Now the CAP 106 is the plan that we pay for. The other two plans we do not pay for. We ask for an addendum to be attached to them to get some of the specific information NRCS would need to do to enter into contracting, but otherwise we basically use either all plans basically to be eligible for EQIP funding. Okay, so as far as approval for forest management plans, you can always send a plan to me, and I can help you determine if it meets all the qualifications. Now the CAP 106 plan, we have a checklist, and it's kind of generic. It sort of refers to you must require all the documentation from both the standard and the job sheet, which the job sheets are basically new in forestry in Wisconsin. So there are some things in there that we would require in a CAP 106 plan that we're paying for. But there's a number of people are qualified to check and approve these plans. And most of those people know who they are, and for those, if you don't know who you are, you can give me a call and we can work on getting you approved. We don't have job approval for forestry as a whole yet, but they're basically working towards doing something like that. And I think with forest management plans, we want those to be the best plans that we can possibly get to get planning before contracting. So so that's something we can kind of work on as we go, and as you guys learn more about the plans and how to utilize them better. Again, we have the CAP 106 checklist. Essentially, I just have on the right-hand side of the screen is the first page of the checklist. It should be in the EFOTG site. If it's not, you can certainly give me a call and I'll quick send it to you, no problem. This is just a good way to go through the checklist to see in general if they have all the requirements. So some of this stuff is very technical, and you may or may not understand what they're talking about, and we're trying to address that in quality criteria. But if you don't understand what they're talking about, you just basically talk to your ARC probably first, and then if the ARC doesn't know offhand, they'll send it to me, or you can send it to me. The idea right now that's probably different, well, it's not different for me because I'm new, but the biggest thing right now on the CAP 106 is to get the requirements from the job sheets and the standards. And like I said, because they're new, it's something we all kind of have to look at as we're accepting plans, if you're going to be accepting a plan. Now, I had started making this slideshow, and I was going to try to talk about how we're getting into 2017 and what we're going to be really doing. But essentially, we're really just in Wisconsin. We're not going to make any big changes at this point for 2017, other than touch up on the job sheets, the quality criteria. For example, in woody residue treatment, we're no longer going to really accept if a TSP turns it in that says it's for fire or for insect. There's ways to qualify that. There's a map in the EFOTG site that shows fire risk in Wisconsin that blows up, and you can kind of start making judgment calls from there. A lot of this is judgment calls, so if they're in a low-risk fire area and they insist that they need something like woody residue treatment, that would raise you to ask some more questions. Why would you want to do that? And it may be because of the species. They may be on a plantation that's unique and not on the map. There's stuff like that. The other thing is insects, where you can't just say, oh, we're going to treat slash because of insect and disease. We actually need to know what insect and disease they're talking about, and it has to be verified by the TSP with either a picture, or it's pretty easy to verify once you know you have an insect or a disease problem or the potential thereof in a specific county. Again, we have that in the EFOTG website, where you can look at it's the last year's forest health report from the WDNR, and it talks about all the diseases and insect and disease issues that are found in Wisconsin, and usually correlated to how to treat for that and where they're located in Wisconsin on the map. Are there any questions at this point? Okay. So I'm going to work on, okay. So really what's new? Really, like I said, really not much is new. We're really just trying to get in line with what already exists for policy. Again, I've talked a little bit about standards, job sheet requirements. There's been some talk about paying for MFL plans, regardless of when they were created, paying for them to meet CAP criteria. And although I think that it's a good idea, I think that we're covering it with the addendum, and really the MFL along with stewardships are considered the equivalent of a CAP 106 as far as EQIP and EQIP payments are concerned. So, and how old is an old plan? Well, the rules state that, policy states that the MFL and stewardships are good for 10 years. And I like that because 10 years, within 10 years, there typically is not going to be a change during the inventory of the project as far as tree growth. Species obviously isn't going to change, but really just in a matter of growth. You're not going to be changing from the previous inventory in a measurable way within 10 years. So if any stewardship plan or an MFL plan is older than 10 years, we would be requiring them to get a CAP 106. That really ties in well with how they've been developing their MFL WISFR's computer program for the WDNR for planning, because they've been updating, and I've received plans from MFL because their plans are good for a lifespan of 25 to 30 or more years. I can't remember exactly, but definitely 25 years. And so the problem is that a lot of that stuff was done even before the stewardship guidelines were out. And so if we go 10 years back, we're actually in line better with the stewardship problem. So we can't go back more than 10 years without requiring a new plan, which of course we will pay for. And the best way to do some of the 10-year plans or older is by doing the addendum, which is, I'm working on, like I said, a checklist and actually a good spreadsheet. I'm working with a computer specialist to create an easy to use basically table that will get all the information that we need for contracting and getting quantitative and qualitative criteria as not necessarily evidence, but as proof that something was done for payment and it was put in the right direction or in the right place for better forestry practices. Now, when accepting or talking about a CAP 106 plan, we basically want to include in the next 5 years, when we receive a plan, 10 years would be ideal, but the reality of forestry is that a lot of these things, things change, money changes, price change, a lot of things can happen between now and 10 years in the market, as well as in the Farm Bill and et cetera. So ideally, we'd like to go 5 years of planning into the future for 2017, where we require everybody, if they're going to write a plan for us, a CAP 106, and they're going to use practices in the next 5 years. They need to get all the information within the CAP 106 plan that is required by both the standard and the job sheet. That does not mean that if something is 5 years out, or if they go so far as 10 years out, that they automatically, because it's in the plan as is, that they automatically it's eligible. And basically the job sheets and eligibility are going to change a little bit over time. That's just the way it works, from what I'm learning here. And so you would still be required at the time, the year of contracting that practice, to use that year's job sheet and standard. And I don't expect a lot of changes within the standard. And the job sheet, most of that stuff, I'm hoping we can get it clear and better in this next year or two. And we won't have to, there won't be a lot of dramatic changes. Again, any questions out there? Normally I have a lot more pictures, but this is a lot more not very picture-friendly topic. So on the basics of planning before contracting, and this is with a CAP 106, basically, as we all know, they have to identify the resource concern, and the resource concern will then direct them to a specific practice that will address that resource concern. This is all in the cookbook, what practices relates to what resource concern. And all required documentation for the plan, again, are going to be in the job sheet or in the standard. You start with the checklist, but the checklist is going to refer you to the job sheet and standard. Again, with documentation, we want in the plan the required documentation from the standard as well as the job sheet. And let's see. And that looks like I'm running out of slides, so I'm kind of going through it fast. So I just kind of want to go through, this is a little bit on the boring end of town, I would think, but so I'm opening up, this is our forestry, National Forestry Manual, and if you have some questions, this is kind of stuff I go to, but highlighting the topics of the day. When we talk about accepting other plans, if you go to section F here, basically it says that we recognize forest management plans developed by partner organizations that meet national criteria for NRCS. That means we accept forest stewardship plans, and in this case MFL plans. Here it doesn't state the time frame, but it's and I can copy paste it and send it to you, but basically they say it's for 10 years, and I think that makes sense logically with how typical forestry stuff type works. The other manual that you can take a look at, and I think I had sent this out, but this little manual, 17 pages, is the basics for stewardship program, national standards and guidelines. So this is not the CAP 106. These are considered equivalent plans. But I'm going to go. I highlighted something here. Oh, okay. So again, so in trying to eliminate duplicity, governmental duplicity with different organizations like the Forest Service or the WDNR, who at the top levels are working together. This is basically telling you in a second place that that stewardship management plans, which would then, and this is the Farm Bill recognizes these, is a stewardship management plan as well as the MFL plan, is supposed to be accepted and considered the equivalent of a CAP 106 plan. Again, we're in Wisconsin. We're asking for an addendum to get some more information. Typically, what happens in, say, the state of Missouri is that they do not require any addendum or any other information, and it's up to the field staff. And they also have agreement with their state forestry department that they do field work and stuff like that. But for our cases, we'd like the addendum that gives us a little bit more specific information, so you don't have to call the landowner and you don't have to track down the writer of the plan, which can be kind of difficult because they also don't always have a vested interest in anything after writing the plan. So here's where it says that, and then lastly, another document is basically the EQIP interim rule on management plans, and I just wanted to highlight a few things that I've picked up on that there's been I've been a little bit confused on in the state. But the key is that one of the reasons why we need to accept plans, and we can get an addendum out of them to get our information for NRCS, but I think that basically the idea is on all of that is that we cannot pay for payment, we cannot pay for work that has already been initiated. And so if the plan, which what we pay for Cap 106, the majority of the money, I'd say 90%, is actually going towards an inventory. And that if that work is already done, that would not qualify. And here's the section where you can see. Oh, why does Okay, so basically it says here, just like I was stating, is that payment will not be made to a participant for a conservation practice that has been initiated or implemented prior to contract approval unless a waiver has been granted by the chief prior to the practice implementation. I think that probably has been delegated down to the state level on waivers, and I will get that clarified. And going back to the slideshow, that kind of really concludes the general conversation that I wanted to have about management plans, CAP plans, where we're going in for 2017, and I think where we're really going is more concentrating on getting where we're supposed to already be with the policy, and improving our quantitative and qualitative assessments within the job sheet so that we can get better information up front on the Cap 106. Again, it all comes back to planning before contracting. I think that no matter where you work in land management, this is always how they do it. So it may be different than how you've been doing business in the past, but this is a pretty standard way of doing business in land management with forestry. So I don't know if we have any questions out there. That was a lot of information, kind of, and not a lot of photos. Okay.
Doesn't look like there's any questions. So this is Penny at Wisconsin Land and Water. If there's no question, I think we're done, Andy, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
If anybody wants, of course, anybody out there, give me a call if you have any specific questions about what we talked about and stuff. And if you have a plan in hand that you need help with, always give me a call. The ARCs are great at passing them on to me, and many of those guys are qualified to do it as well. So thanks for your time. Have a nice day. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
And thanks for help.
Right. We like to thank Andy and NRCS for providing this training, and it's also provided partially from SITCOM, the State Interagency Training Committee. And if you have any questions, let us know. Otherwise, we do not have a training next week, so our next training will be on Wednesday, March 30th, and that's going to be on gypsum.
And that's Judy Derrickson. She's here right now to say hello.
Hello, Judy.
Hello and goodbye.
Okay, everyone, have a good day. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.